grammar class. Today's grammar class is about indirect and direct speech. This first video will revise what you already know about direct and indirect speech. First question is, what is direct speech and what is indirect speech? Direct speech is when you directly write down what you heard. So, for example, you heard someone say, please be quiet, and you write down, please be quiet. It's always placed in quotation marks. But you can also report if you heard someone say something or that you yourself said something. In this case, you do not use quotation marks, but you use a structure like this. I said that they had to be quiet. Quite often the word that appears, but it's not obligatory. It may also be omitted. I could also say, I said they had to be quiet. Both are correct. There's some very important changes you have to make when you change direct speech into indirect speech. The first one has to do with verb tenses. All verb tenses tend to take a step back in time. So the present tenses, present simple and present continuous, change into the past tenses, past simple and past continuous. The past tenses we have, past simple, past continuous, present perfect simple, present perfect continuous, all change into the past perfect, simple or continuous depending on what it was. So simple say simple and continuous say continuous, but it takes a step back in time. So how is this going to work? Well, for example, we have a direct speech and we have a reported speech. The direct speech is in present simple, and I have to change it into past simple. Direct speech was, I am a great student. I heard someone say, I am a great student. When I want to report that I heard a girl say this, I would say, she said she was a great student. So not, she said she is a great student, but she was a great student. However, of course there are exceptions to this. There's two situations where you do not change your verb tense. The first is when the reporting verb is in the present. The reporting verb is that verb that introduces your reported speech. So in this sentence, the doctor says, I have to take these pills. It says. It introduces my reported speech, I have to take these pills. Because says is in the present tense, I do not change have to into past simple, but I just keep it in the present simple. The second situation where I wouldn't change my verb tense is when what you're reporting is still true and it hasn't been finished. For example, he said Anna and Bob are learning Russian. They are still learning Russian. They haven't finished learning Russian. They are still going to class, or they're still reading books in Russian. Whereas when you say, he said Anna and Bob were learning Russian, they have stopped doing it. They are no longer learning Russian. Of course, the modal verbs have to behave differently again. There are 4 modal verbs that change their tense or even change words. For example, will turns into would, just goes back in time. Same for can and could. But may turns into might, and must into had to. Other modals do not change tense. Examples of the modals that do not change tense are would, ought to, could, used to, might, had better, and should. So these are the same in direct speech as in indirect speech. There are many other changes that you have to make, and these are ruled by logic. So you always have to check, does it make sense what I'm writing down? Is it logical? There's a couple of word groups that you have to keep your eye on. The first one, pronouns and possessives. Remember when I said, in direct speech, I heard a girl say, I am a great student. Then when I used reported speech, I said, she was a great student. I changed the pronoun because it wouldn't be logical if I left it with I. Other ones are words of place and words of time. Always make sure it's logical what you're saying. And especially with words of this, that, these and those, demonstratives, you have to keep your eyes on them. For example, if I say, this candy is nice, and I change it into reported speech, I would use the. So this candy is nice, and she said that the candy was nice. This, that, these and those when they are subject of a sentence. For example, this is interesting, and it changes into reported speech, tends to change into it or they. So direct speech, this is interesting. Reported speech, she said it was interesting. Last thing we have to discuss, we already discussed it last year, are reported questions. We have two types of questions in English as well as in Dutch. The first one are the yes-no questions. Those are questions where the answer is yes or no. If we report a yes-no question, we use the word if or whether. So for example, I have a yes-no question, could you carry a suitcase? And if I report it, I would use if. He asked me if I could carry a suitcase. The other type of question we have are the WH questions. So those questions that start with a WH element, like what, where, when, who. This WH element remains in reported speech. So for example, I had a question in direct speech, what are you doing? And in reported speech, it turns into, he asked me what I was doing. Some important things you should notice about this. Firstly, there's no longer the verb order for questions. So, could you carry a suitcase turns into, I could carry a suitcase. We use the normal word order. Secondly, there's no question mark. And thirdly, all the rules that apply to other reported speech apply to reported questions as well. So think about logical changes in pronouns, time and places, and also change your verb tenses. Well, that's all we've learned about indirect and direct speech so far. In the second video, I will tell you what we're learning about it this year.